Hello everyone, my name is Lisa Martinez and this is Module 1. We will be going through my personal demographics, reviewing our resources, talking about key definitions and question responses, and then going into concluding thoughts and references. I'm Lisa. I'm from Topeka, Kansas, born and raised. I have a BA in Spanish from Washburn University. I have a master's in education from Baker University, master's of teaching language in an emphasis in Spanish from the University of Southern Mississippi. And I'm married with 3 kiddos, Malinai, Gianni, and Louis. I was a Spanish teacher for 16 years, was fortunate enough to be the Region 2 Kansas Teacher of the Year in 2022, and am currently an assistant principal at Scott Dual Language Elementary here in Topeka. Seven ways to create an inclusive classroom: academic support, preparing teachers, curriculum, integrating student bodies, redistricting, adjusting ranking calculations, creating a respectful school community, and creating space for discussion. In the article Inclusive Leadership in Education, we read about listening and communicating with all stakeholders, building effective teams, sharing a vision and enacting that vision, commitment to equity and high quality learning, that disabilities are included in our talks about inclusive education, but it's not just disabilities, it also encompasses social justice, and that there are several key traits to being an inclusive leader. In 10 Reasons for Inclusive Schools, we learned that inclusive schools are places where all children have equal access to an inclusive curriculum. Students with disabilities should be supported and have all of the accommodations and people necessary so that they can be successful, and that inclusive schools value input and participation from the whole community, not just students. In what is inclusive education and how can you implement it, we learned that the inclusive learning environment provides equal opportunity for all students and recognizes their uniqueness, and that discrimination is combated through inclusive education. Students with diverse abilities should be present in all classrooms, and then should be included in all events. Especially as educators come together to create these events, they need to keep these students in mind in order to provide an accessible environment. In the article, What Are Roles of Principals in Successful Inclusive Schools, we read that when it comes to successfully implementing change, improving services, or determining a new course of action, the leader is going to be imperative, significant in that role, the single most important predictor of that success. So in order for them to be successful, they are going to have to get everyone behind them and lead them to accept new ways of thinking and acting in the classroom if they aren't already doing so. Learning about the inclusive school, we read that inclusion is fostering a culture in which everyone not only has access to opportunities, but also feels appreciated and valued. Some schools are taking extensive measures to ensure that no one is excluded. Inclusive schools must prioritize listening to students, parents, and staff through focus groups and town hall meetings. In the article, Developing an Inclusive Classroom Culture, we read that it takes valuing what each student brings, establishing a respectful class climate, planning for everyone to participate and achieve, creating environments for students with high instance of supports and flexibility, and also making sure there are minimal barriers for the students, and the whole thing takes a community approach both inside and outside the school. In reading building an inclusive school culture with equity of access to knowledge. We learn that we need to eliminate excuses by understanding and supporting deficits, raise every student beyond their expectations, customize school programs based on on student need, collaborate to find solutions using school culture to support achievements. And we can do that in interdisciplinary meetings and teaching courses in native language, and that equal is not necessarily equitable. And we didn't read this one, it was a video. All right. The value of inclusive education. This resource outlines inclusive education, its importance, frequent misconceptions, fundamental elements, how to promote it, and some of the most costly things about it. So these systems promote education and reduce discrimination. They require teaching assistants, specialists, inclusive curriculum, parent involvement, and empowering parents, fostering community involvement in order to really boost and make the inclusive culture more concrete, hold governments accountable for funding all of the above, plus infrastructure upgrades, instructional materials and equipment, and those curriculum changes so that everyone can see their own experience in their curriculum. Creating inclusive schools for all students. All children should be respected for their unique strengths and included as vital members of a school community according to the inclusion practices. So in Falk Elementary School, they have seen significant academic increases. They use co-teaching and to address accountability and individualization, and they also have incredibly strong leadership, which is going to be required to support any kind of reform. The superintendent and that administration must commit to inclusive education in order for everyone to become inclusive, and they have really seen a lot of success in that district or in that school. Tips on creating an inclusive school and why it matters. So understanding inclusion, particularly opposed to exclusionary behaviors, is crucial to creating more inclusive classrooms. It really takes everybody inside the school as well as outside the school. We hear a lot about staff, teachers, students, but I like that this one really talked about your school psychologists, your social workers, counselors, and all of those people really just coming together. That teacher cooperation ensures that all children are getting consistent education, because when they collaborate, they can identify teaching and inclusion gaps and resolve them. In the last article, they talked about, in the video, they talked about getting together every other day in interdisciplinary groups in order to look for gaps and actively work on resolutions. So for definitions, an inclusive school culture is a school culture whereby all students, regardless of their ability, learn together in one environment. Our resources define education in terms of inclusive education, meaning that different and diverse students are learning side by side in the same classroom. And then here are some examples of things that they would all do together. Just in that normal or typical way of thinking instead of separating. Leadership, inclusive school leaders should show a visible commitment, a humility, awareness of bias, cultural intelligence, effective collaboration, and without that leadership, reform, maintenance, and growth are not possible. In order to maintain and foster inclusive culture, there must be communication of expectations, leading by example, fostering positive relationships, supporting diversity and inclusion, and addressing issues and concerns. If an inclusive culture is not present, a leader really needs to adopt these policies, practices, promote, provide training and development, and actively work on creating a welcome and supportive atmosphere for all students, including being patient and persistent, engaging all members of the school community in the process of developing a more inclusive culture. Encouraging and empowering student advocacy. We need to assist students and staff in feeling empowered and confident in their capacity to advocate for themselves and others. And this fosters abilities that will affect anyone throughout their life, encourage an inclusive and equitable culture in which individuals feel appreciated and supported, and also encourage student-faculty leadership cooperation, providing resources and assistance in order to cultivate those healthy connections. Everyone needs to be able to feel comfortable in expressing their views, opinions, and concerns, and they need to know that those things are heard and appreciated. So in order to ensure equitable treatment and inclusive culture, we need to establish policies that promote equity and fair treatment, professional development, encourage and empower staff and students, monitor and track progress so that we can identify areas for improvement and then act on those, encourage the community, encourage open and honest communication. Changing negative assumptions, identify, challenge and reframe, encourage open and honest communication, teach and do active listening, promote inclusivity and equity, provide professional development, and then hire diverse staff, equity groups to come in or create within the school, and have presentations. So for concluding thoughts, this really showed me a lot of correlations between some of my experiences, our standard, and obviously the resources. I know I'll use this one going forward as a leader as I build and implement pro-inclusion practices. And I know that because of all of the above, my slideshow promotes the current and future success and well-being of each student and adult as it condenses all of this information into a consumable quantity. Relevancy. This assignment was relevant to my learning because it reinforced information about inclusive school culture that I had begun to study in recent years. Learning how to support and advocate for students and staff as a leader is a high priority on my list. In my school, I support inclusion because it is ingrained in our culture and in who I am as a person. I look for opportunities for us to be better in everything we do, and my current school community is supportive of inclusion and inclusive school culture. So this really hit home for me, and I think a lot of things in this class will. My previous school district was named after the exalted Cyclops, or leader of the KKK of Topeka, and when this was brought to light by students, there was an aggressive and harassing reaction against students and staff who were trying to get the name changed, and it really caused a lot of issues and went into the school. They are a community that some of them who are speaking the loudest and getting the most attention, they're very adverse towards the idea of anything woke, and there are so many great things and people, programs in that district, but unfortunately a lot of people just choose to look the other way, or they just want to stay out of it. And then, meanwhile, everything basically that you see on the news is happening up there, or has been. About a quarter of the teaching staff left the high school alone last spring, and I hope the best for them because I know that they lost a lot of really good people, but I know that there's a lot of great kids up there, and I hope that they can all recover and keep growing. So traveling the state with the K-Toy team really saved me from leaving education entirely. My experience showed me that there is more to education. My new school is less than 10% white and is a dual language public education program that receives students from all over the city. We are culturally rich, inclusive, and progressive. And this course has already taught me a lot about what the leadership in my former district failed to do against the pressures of the community, and about what my responsibilities are as a new administrator. If anybody wants to contact me more about my previous experience, ways to support them, please let me know, and I look forward to working with everybody going forward.